September 5th committee meeting to order. Stand for the flag salute, please. Roger.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rita?
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by publication in the Press of Atlantic City on January the 9th, 2017, and the Atlantic County Record on January the 11th, 2017. Mr. Gishard?
Present.
Mrs. Link? Mr. Schenker?
Here.
Mr. Silva?
Here.
And Mayor Kurtz.
Here. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for private reflection, please. Addition and deletion of late agenda items to be considered for tonight's action.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstain? And just for the public, I'll mention that those, if you have a copy, I don't know if you have, do they have the late list out there?
Yeah.
Okay, great, you have that. Early public comment on agenda items excluding items listed for public hearing. Mike?
No one has signed up.
No one signed up. Okay, number 3, discussions, formal actions may be taken. A, best practices inventory discussion and acknowledgement of completion. Mike, you want to explain that a little bit?
The part of the best practices process is to put it on an agenda and have committee just acknowledge that it's there, it's been done, if you want to discuss it or if you have any questions or comments.
Okay, great.
There's
I had
a
an
copy here.
opportunity to read through it. I don't have any questions or anything. Does anyone on committee would like to make a comment on it or have
Mike,
questions?
is this one, I didn't compare with last one, is it pretty similar, or they keep adding and taking away different things and making it more difficult to try to get the score so they could take more and more of our utility receipt money?
This year, they actually eliminated a few questions and narrowed it down to, I don't think there's anything new this year, but they took away a number of our yeses, or our no's by percentage went up a little bit. We just barely made it, just because by percentage, not that we had more no's, but
By percentage?
by percentage, because I think there was 28 questions last year. There's only 20. There's 20 or 25.
I think it's 20.
Is it 20? 25. There was 30-some questions last year, then.
Okay.
There were quite a few more. Yeah.
Anyone have any comment on it? Raj, anything
No, I'm
else?
okay.
You okay, Rodney? Okay, Art?
No.
Okay, great. This is prepared in resolution form, so we need to take a vote. Committee, what's your pleasure?
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Against? Abstain?
Before you do that,
Yes.
each of you have reviewed this, correct?
What'd you say?
Each of you have reviewed the document?
Yes, I have, yes.
Okay. The only reason I would ask for a roll call vote is that one of you may have an exception as to any particular item. So I would appreciate a roll call vote.
Okay, no problem. Rita, could you do that, please?
Yes, Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Item 3B, Leapy Complex Hockey Courts construction schedule. Actually, this is on here for discussion because recently the MLAA has come to us and asked if they could begin their sign-ups for hockey and push the resurfacing of the hockey courts off until the end of the season. There's a couple things that we talked amongst ourselves and thought we would require. One was a letter from the MLAA asking or agreeing that they could play on the surface the way that it was, and agreeing that, and I asked Mike if he could see that he got that, and I understand you did.
We do.
And also, when this, if this happens, Brett will go out from Public Works and kind of address any issues that might be look like a little bit of a safety issue, like a crack or something like that, so the surface will be okay for them to play on, and we can extend it. They can play this season until they start to work in maybe March or April, what we're hoping for, maybe March, I don't know. And those items have been done. We were also waiting for a letter from the contractor indicating he would extend the contract at the same amounts that was indicated in the original bid.
Is that something, we haven't even awarded the contract.
No,
So
it'll be next meeting.
what issue does that present, Bobby? Does it present any?
It does present an issue. If it was determined to be a material alteration of the contract, it would affect the potential pool of bidders. And if that were the case, it would be a problem, because there may have been a potential bidder that says, well, I could do this job, but I can't do it now. So what should happen is you should take no action tonight.
No.
And I understand it's going to be on the next meeting agenda to either award or reject to the apparent low bidder. If we reject it, it's moot. If we accept it, it would be a contract modification at that time.
Question. Do you remember, Mike, did the bid document specify when it had to be done?
I don't know the answer to that question. I'm sure there was a window.
You know, my question would be this, Mr. Solicitor, that if it did, and they submitted their bids, the fact that it's not going to be awarded till next meeting, would the other bidder have a challenge to this thing?
They would always have a challenge,
Okay,
but their challenge is not based on their standing vis-à-vis the bid that the apparent second bidder had, because it was a very large difference
Yeah,
between the
okay.
two. Both were above the engineer's estimate, so that would be a basis if you decided to reject it on just the value. But that's not how the law looks at it. The law looks at it as if there was some other potential person out there that said, no, I can't do it at this time. And that would be a potential basis. But I'm not going to give you a legal opinion here today.
Sure.
I'm going to tell you what the general status of the law is. Once awarded, if someone challenges, then we'll take it up in executive session.
okay.
Okay, there was the next question I would have would be, they're already past the date that they start to the signups for the hockey players, and can the MLAA go ahead with that?
The answer is yes, and the reason the answer is yes is because if for some reason there was not a contract modification with respect to the time of performance, because the value of the apparent low bidder is way above the engineer's estimate, that would be a basis of rejection.
Okay,
And the worst that would happen is you'd rebid it for a spring job.
yeah,
And at that point, they would be playing anyhow.
yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to get that clear so we could respond to the MLAA. The contractor is sending off a letter to Mike indicating that he was going to extend that. Is that still necessary?
It's not only not necessary right now, it
Okay.
would be improper right now.
I got you.
You have to come to your next meeting and you have to make a decision on
Sure,
whether you award.
understood. Yeah, it's not, like Art said, it's not, he hasn't done his job yet. Okay. All right, there's no action being taken on this tonight. I think we'll just let this lay, and it'll come up before the next meeting, and Mike will notify the MLAA that they can take their signups.
Was there a motion on the floor?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob. And now we're on 3C, the Weymouth Bridge. This is another discussion item. There's some paperwork in your packet. This came about, I believe, today. Am I correct, Mike?
Yes.
Go ahead and explain that.
Wanted to shut the road down.
Yeah, this is common, what's happening that we get from the county. There's been a lot of it lately, and it takes us by surprise. It takes the police chief by surprise. It takes the residents by surprise. So to get a notice that they're going to do the Weymouth, close the bridge, and detour traffic down Gale Avenue is, I believe we really should have got more notice than this. Can we do anything about it? I'm not sure, and I don't think so. I know that we contacted one of the freeholders. Mike spoke with Jerry at the county, and it was pretty much an apology that it didn't get to us sooner. We were aware of the fact that this was going to happen because this was going to happen sooner, and we had it put away till after Labor Day, but we didn't realize the day after Labor Day and then get notice on the day they're getting ready to start it. So it was rather kind of sudden. Is there any other?
Yeah, but in the
member who
past,
wants
what
to
they normally do, and I've seen them do it, where they put up the large signs
Yeah.
that
Didn't do that.
this road will be shut down from, to. I mean, my concern in that area is public safety. You're going to get in a lot of traffic on Gale Avenue,
Yeah.
and it's going to, we've had them in here before. Remember the last time it happened? And, they were upset because they were speeding through. It's a very residential road, and it has a lot of turns on it, and the truckers were just cutting right across the people's property and making gouges in it. So, I mean, the other thing would be, luckily, we got the ambulance squad that has a facility out there, would be notification to all of the fire departments to let them know in case anything happened. But I think it's very uncharacteristic of the county just to arbitrarily just go ahead with this thing. And whether they put it on some sort of a notification system or not, in the past, they used to come in or at least let us know. And they used to talk, I believe, to the department and, because this is going to be down for how long now, Mike?
3 months.
In November.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's if we're lucky. Things go according to
If it
plan.
goes well, very short notice. And it was done to us not long ago on repairs at the traffic light by Spoonie's Marina. They
Yes.
closed down the whole intersection.
Yes.
Like, just came in, closed it down. The chief was like, last minute, he found out about it. It's like, holy mackerel, what's happening up here? Residents were just bewildered, and the traffic was nuts. And again, no notice. So it's something that's been happening pretty regular. We need to, Mike, you had made a suggestion, something about something we could sign up for on the web.
I signed the committee up as well as myself.
Okay, and could you explain what that does?
It's AC Access Link. We get information when the county has a road closure of any kind. I also checked off emergency notices. So any kind of
Okay.
emergency notices or road construction.
So it would come to all committee besides yourself?
Yeah.
That way someone should see it and get a heads up, we're hoping, but that's, the heads up we're getting right now is none. So I'm not really happy with that with the county. And Mike let them know that.
We're coming close to two other issues that are going to impact this township. Eventually, one is going to be the bridge in front of the dam that I understand that they want to do, and also will be the dam when that does come about. And obviously, we're going to have to, once we get word of it, prepare the neighborhood, because it's going to disrupt things for a long time. I mean, the bridge could take, what, a year?
Probably so.
Well,
18 months? Thanks, Jim.
this is an area which we had a meeting with the public last week, and this is an area that I brought up, and I think it's an area that something needs to be done about, because these projects take, I think, a lot longer than they have to. And there's not due consideration given to what it does to the public. So I'm urging, maybe we need to do a study, or maybe they need to do a study, the South Jersey Transportation Program Office and Planning Office, and figure out what factors are involved in having these projects take so long. Is it possible that they could get all the permits ahead of time, they could get the material they need ahead of time, that they could use multiple contractors if that was necessary? But these kind of excessive delays are just unsatisfactory as far as I'm concerned.
And Mike, I think that it's something we should look into further, so maybe we can get together and do a little of that work that Rodney's talking about, and let them know how we feel about it. It's just been happening too much lately that it seems to me they would have to have a better way of providing the information to us sooner.
Agreed.
Okay, and there's, again, there was no motion, this is no vote or anything tonight, it was just discussion, so we're going to move on. Number 4, public hearing, adoption of ordinances. A, ordinance number 1853-2017, an ordinance amending Article 2 of Chapter 238, the property maintenance. And Phil, would you like to touch on that? I know you spoke on it last time.
Thank you, Mayor. Members will recall, this amends the section of the property maintenance ordinance dealing with the vacant and foreclosed property registration program. What it does is there's a lot of clarification in here as far as who's responsible, who's supposed to be registering. And that's something that Mr. Sandman's associate, Evan, went through, made sure that what we have in our ordinance is consistent with state statute. So we don't get any problems there. The other thing it does, it clarifies when the registrations have to be made as far as how soon after filings are done with the state, when you have a renewal, how soon it has to be done. If one company transfers title to another company and it's not an arm's length transaction, as they say, with time period for that, for the update the information, make sure it's all available so that if we have a problem or investigation, we're contacting the right people to get out there and take care of the issue.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
What happens if they don't make the transfer on time? I mean, if they don't notify us on a timely basis?
Then they could be subject to a fine. It's a violation of the ordinance.
We do specify that here?
Yes, it is. It's
Okay.
specified in the ordinance. I think it's up to $1,000 for failure to. The other thing is it goes from an annual registration to a semi-annual, again, just to make sure that the information the township has on file is the most accurate information that could take place.
Okay.
That's
Any other questions for Phil? Okay, thanks, Phil. Appreciate it. This ordinance was introduced at the last meeting, commented on by Phil, and is now open to public for a public hearing. Is there anyone in the public who would like to comment on this item?
Move to close the public portion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstain?
I move ordinance 1853, 2017, an ordinance amending Article 2 of Chapter 238, property maintenance.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz.
Yes.
All ayes and adopted.
Thank you, Phil. 4B, ordinance 1854-2017, an ordinance amending Exhibit A, Section 1, Article 2 of Chapter 66 of the Code of the Township of Hamilton, providing for a maximum number of employees. Mike, could you comment on that?
Sir, Mayor, thank you. This ordinance adds one sergeant's position in the police department and deletes a communications supervisor position in the police department. So there's no net increase in the number of employees, and there is a slight savings in salaries for the change.
Okay. Any questions? We need a motion to adopt.
So moved?
Isn't it a
Second.
public
Oh,
hearing?
I'm sorry, I have to open it up to the public first. Go ahead, Jim, come on up.
Mike, and what was the maximum number of employees the township has now?
I believe it's 121 or 122,
Was it?
one or the other.
I
This
thought
doesn't
so.
change that.
I thought it was around 128.
Don't believe it's that high, but
But we could stay within the guidelines established by the Strategic Planning Committee 7 years ago.
those guidelines establish these ordinances so that we can make changes to it but we have to do it by ordinance.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone else in the public like to comment? Jack?
John Percy, Laurel Street, Township of Hamilton. I'd just like a clarification of the number. Way back when we had these committees all formed and everybody was doing the thing about the structural deficit, which is government speak for having not enough money to pay the bills. What employee number did we start out with then? In other words, the governing body took the recommendations of all these committees and put together a number. of employees that the township should have. What was the initial number that they started out with?
I think immediately following the layoffs, it was 118, 117.
I think
One-
he's asking before the layoffs.
Before the layoff, there was 170 some,
No.
way back.
We know what the, well, I don't know what the, I don't remember what the number was, but we had an initial number we started out with. That's
Right, about
exactly right.
117.
The 117, and we are at what number now?
77, Mike. We had 177 at that
Yes,
time.
at one time we did.
Mhm.
We're at 120, this would be 122 or 3, maybe 4. We just added 3 police officers, so I'm not sure if they're in my numbers or not.
So you've
Last year.
added to that original number
Yes.
that you started out with. Do you anticipate adding more numbers? Because as more numbers are added, it doesn't make any difference who they are, our taxes are going to go up because,
This ordinance doesn't add, it adds one and deletes one, and the deleting is actually saving money. The deleted
so we
salary
were
is higher
at
than the,
117, we're now at 122, 121?
somewhere in there.
So we've actually added 4 or 5 new employees.
Oh, yes, in the last 6 years, yes.
One of the things that I would recommend is that if you're going to add an employee to that number that we started out with, that you justify the reason why you're going to add that employee, because it eventually costs everybody in the township additional money to do that. If you're going to add a lot of employees, I think you should call the committees back to order again and let them discuss exactly what they want versus what we may think the needs are. Because, we had a lot of conversation back then, a lot of things were rectified that had gone on for years and years and years, which brought up that structural deficit. We don't want to get back into that position again. So as we add employees, we're adding additional costs to the
So you're
township.
talking about if the number's going to rise, we should do this? Because we already have a process where we discuss before the committee meeting, and we're aware of why we need to hire and the reasons, and then it goes on the agenda.
But I generally don't hear the reason why we're adding that employee.
Sure you do. When we
Yeah.
before they introduce the ordinance, before it becomes public hearing, generally, there's a whole rationale that goes before the committee here, and we understand why. For example, recently, they just added 3 policemen, but we got a grant, okay? And the rationale was, in light of what was necessary, we added those 3. Now, the public knew about it. Now, while you stand there, John, and what's amazing me is we only collect 28 cents on a dollar in this township. This conversation probably should be held with the school board. When they're hitting us for 53.4 cents on every dollar, and they had strategic planning. We went, and I was at all those meetings too, we went through strategic planning for well over a good year plus. They had theirs in 3 meetings in a school district, and I don't know what they could have accomplished, okay? So, when I rode by the Hess School today, evidently they had everybody in there. That parking lot was over full with staff, okay?
Right,
And-
I understand that.
You're
But we
concerned
don't
about your
control- we don't-
taxes rising. You come before this committee and speak to us that you don't want your taxes to rise. Nobody wants them to do. But look what we just got smacked with from Atlantic City.
We can't control that.
Well, we
What
should
we
be in a
can control is
position
what you
because-
are sitting up there to do.
Because we should be in a position to be able to do it, but I know we can't. And that's frustrating.
But
So we
I-
shouldn't be blamed for any increase in taxes.
I'm interested
answer your
I'm
question,
interested
though-
in what we can do right here.
And we look at every one of those positions very carefully. We discuss them, and they're looked at very carefully. The 3 policeman positions, there are reasons for that. I know the grant is only for a couple of years, and then after that, we're on our own 3 years. But there are a lot of reasons for that increase.
If you add employees, and you can balance that off with revenue input, that makes a big difference.
And some of that takes place also.
That's in
We've
the
had some
ordinance
of
when we
that.
adopted it.
Go ahead,
We
Bob.
put that actually in the ordinance,
Yes.
Right.
how it's being funded.
Right.
2 of those additional employees were
Right.
added when Hamilton Township joined the court with Buena Vista Township.
Right.
But the revenue that was generated from that offset the cost.
It
of
covered
those
it.
That's the explanation,
What you're talking
that's exactly what the explanation to the public should be. If,
What's in the
and
ordinance?
maybe I wasn't at the meeting, but I and I
Well, it
didn't
was,
hear
it was.
But if you have the revenue offset,
Right.
then it's understandable. But then again, if there's no revenue offset, then what's going to happen to those employees? You're going to have to let those employees go? You know, no doubt the revenues are going to still be there.
Jack,
So if you have a revenue offset, then that's an understandable
You
situation.
sit through the budget meetings here. I don't know how many townships in this, how many municipalities in this county go through what we do in a PowerPoint with the finance department, with everyone, in terms of trying to show you where all the money goes and what the need is at that time. And there's a history we always give and show, and it'll show you the history of the number of employees. If you go back on our website, pull up the budget presentation, you'll see all the numbers that you're looking at if you go back through every one of those budgets. That information's there for you to bring up.
I was at the budget meetings. I have no problem with those budget meetings whatsoever. When I sat up in the governing body, we didn't have an administrator. We made up our own budget, so I understand what budgets are. You want to make them balance. And that's what all I'm asking is that when you have an increase in an employee, justify that to the people, or if you're going to have wholesale increases, go back to the committees and let them help you solve that problem.
When you say justify, you're talking financially?
Sure.
Well, we
Well,
have,
you may have to
that justification has to be taken to our CFO, and she has to let us know we have the money to hire that person. So, you know, I mean, there's a process for this to happen
Oh, I know
already.
what the process is. I've been there, I've done that.
Yeah, so
But
I don't
I'm just
quite-
asking to have the compassion to not increase our taxes by adding people that you don't have the offsetting revenue for.
And
That's all.
that hasn't,
John,
Increased staffing.
can I say something?
Sure.
In this case, I don't know if we were clear enough here, there's actually going to be a reduction in the payroll of the police department because of the way this was handled.
I heard that.
Okay, so you have someone who's leaving, you have to replace that person. So in order to do it, we hired another person and utilized somebody who was already under our employ, so that we
But
were
he's not
able
going to
to.
replace the supervising, communication supervisor. He's not going to be replaced. You're
Yes,
gonna
we
put in-
did.
He is replacing with a
He's
sergeant.
being replaced by a sergeant.
But the sergeant's going out on the road. Is he going inside?
Yep,
No.
yep.
They'll be doing the duties.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Chief, please.
Yeah,
You don't
Chief,
mind,
if you
Mayor
could
Dave.
clear
I
this
think
up.
that's let me assure you that I'm not going to allow us to just arbitrarily hire people because it's a fun
Got
thing
that
to
right.
do. Believe me, I pay taxes in this town too. Chief?
Yes. Once we found out that the communications supervisor was retiring, and it was a sudden thing, we thought about how to handle that. We could just backfill that position and move forward, but we came up with some other ideas that would fill that slot, redesign the job a little bit. It's still administrative, supervising communications, and be able to also backfill an officer. And it's going to cost the township less money than they're paying now for that position.
So he's actually taking Mike's position.
Yes,
As
but the
a
job is being
uniform.
redesigned.
Okay.
Yeah.
That wasn't explained. I thought he was going to be a road sergeant. He's not going to be a road sergeant. He's going to be inside
Well,
an administrative.
There is going to be an administrative sergeant's position.
Okay.
May not be the same person.
Right. It's not. We don't assign names. As you know, when you're doing staffing, it's the positions, and then you plug the names in later. But we redesigned the job, and it's going to be an administrative sergeant's position.
Okay. All right.
But I'd like to close, I'd like to thank you for bringing this to us, because you keep us, we know people are looking, so I
Yeah.
appreciate your comments.
Yeah,
Well,
all the
I'm
comments
not
are
being-
appreciated. Thank you.
No,
surreptitious about it. I'm just saying, if you're going to add more employees and increase the taxes, then go back to the committees and ask these committees who sat here for hours and hours and hours if that's really what they want. And help you with the input side, that's all. Many hours we sat in here and sat over in the diner.
Around the
We
township.
sat in the diner, right, and we talked. And that's not really a diner. What was that? The hole in the wall.
It was
or whatever
close.
it was. So, all right, okay.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks for the comment. We appreciate it. Is there anybody else in the public would like to speak on this?
Move to close the public portion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstain?
Make a motion, we move ordinance 1854, 2017, an ordinance amending Exhibit A, Section 1, Article 2 of Chapter 66 of the Code of the Township of Hamilton, providing for the maximum number of employees.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
Number 5, introduction of ordinances, public hearing to be held on September 18th, 2017. A, ordinance 1855-2017, an ordinance to vacate a portion of Odessa Avenue. Mike, do you want to fill us in a little on this? Or, I'm sorry, Phil, that's right, yeah, Phil. Phil's got it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a request to vacate that portion of Odessa Avenue between Drosera Street and Tilton Road. It's currently unimproved. It was referred to the planning board.
Yeah, I remember
This
that.
summer. I think the requester came back a couple times
Yeah, he did.
and provided the information. And, again, it's one of those sections of roadway that doesn't even have a dirt trail through it yet. So.
Right, so it's a no-brainer. Okay, I appreciate that. If there's no other questions, we're looking for a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
This is an introduction,
It's a motion to
Yes.
introduce.
Yes.
so we're not adopting it.
No, it's for introducing.
Introducing it, yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes, yes. 6A, resolution authorizing the extension of award of bid 2016-09 HVAC to Marley Contractors for the period January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2018, not to exceed $21,025.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Abstain. This is a contractor that's signatory to my local.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
3 with 1 abstention, motion carries.
6B, resolution authorizing participation in the South Jersey Power Co-op and accepting pricing.
So
Okay.
moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Resolution awarding contract to Wayne Allen Neville Township Architect for architectural and structural engineering services for the Public Works Salt Shed Building for a fee not to exceed $17,500.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Silva? Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
6D, resolution awarding contract to Craig Test Boring Incorporated for test boring services for the Public Works Storage Building not to exceed $3,325.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
On a consent agenda, we have an item that was added on the late list, so we're looking to approve items A, 1 through 3, and then B, C, and D.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstain. Personnel. A, authorization to advertise for Deputy Court Administrator.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have a vacancy, we have a resignation, and we also have a vacant deputy court administrator position. So what we'd like to do is fill one of the vacant positions with a deputy.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're back up to the staff that we had.
Okay, very good. And let me see, we don't need a, yeah, we do need a, is all in favor okay on this, Bob, or do you want to vote?
I want to vote.
You want to vote? Rita?
Is there a motion?
I don't have a motion.
I make
Yeah.
the motion.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
And we'll go on to item B, authorization to advertise for a violations clerk.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Item 9, approval. Minutes of August 21st, 2017 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstain. B, payrolls and bills. Bill list totaling $4,500,697.38.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
10, reports. Administrator.
Nothing to add to the written report.
Okay. Bob?
I just briefly want to tell you that in your package, you guys should have received a form of contract with respect to the resolution of the Thelma Avenue roadway. I received word today that that was approved by Thelma Heights LLC. The individual at the bank is currently on vacation, comes back tomorrow, and I plan on putting that on the agenda for the next meeting
That's great.
to assist the folks that live on Thelma Avenue.
It's good news.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah, it's good news. Anything else, Bob?
Nothing else.
Our engineer, Kevin?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you. You have a copy of my report, but I just wanted to mention that there's a lot going on in town. There are several sites under construction. We're receiving bids next week for a road program. We've been in touch with all of the builders. We're staying in touch with them and on top of them every day. We're communicating with them and coordinating traffic patterns with the police department and staying on top of the developers. We have the lighthouse, we have the liquor store under construction, Harding Homes. Fernmore is working on basins so that they can get their homes started. They've already paved Old Egg Harbor Road, as you know. And so with the road program next week, we'll have quite a bit going on in town. So we're staying on top of it.
Kev, how
If you have
you
any
doing?
questions.
You keeping up with our famous utility companies with the road opening?
I have
go
to
down
plead the
street
fifth
and-
on that.
I go down the street and I see another patch in it.
We are keeping up with them. They have the system isn't bad. They notify you weekly what their schedule's going to be. Then they don't follow that schedule. But so we regularly inventory all of the road programs that we are managing, and then we go look at them to see if they've worked on those areas. And then if they have, we monitor them over time to see if they're settling or if they're doing it right.
I know it's a state road, but where they ripped up the road there in front of St. Vincent's and put that patch in there?
Yeah.
Is that just a patch? Are they going to come back and refinish that, do you know?
Most likely, it's going to settle because that's a big gas line, and they're going all the way down Route 40, and they're going to have two passes at that, two takes on that trench.
I know, and of course, obviously, throughout town, as you mentioned, you got a lot going, and then we got the Harding Highway.
I wanted to mention that was nearing completion, and they're ready for top coat on that.
Amen. You know, some businesses have been hurt very drastically by that. You got a couple right there. You have DeFeo's, you have the watering hole, and you have
Yeah.
a few others along there. And it's hurt a lot of people.
They're hurting. I've talked to some of them.
Yeah.
Can I ask what was the cause of the delay? I mean, it seems like it took longer than it needed to.
I'm glad you asked that because you mentioned that before. I was going to suggest that maybe it might be beneficial to have a separate meeting to discuss the ins and outs of these kind of contract issues with Steve Philippone and some other people that have done this and do it regularly. And there are a myriad of reasons why there are delays, but there's also the contract limitations that are on a municipality or a public agency who puts a project out to bid. And under public bidding laws, you're sort of handcuffed. On one hand, you have you really have all of the cards with respect to the schedule, but you have very few options to play when it comes time to enforcing all of those cards. So if your option is to cancel the contract or to penalize the contractor, and the contractor goes away and doesn't complete the job, you haven't accomplished the completion of that project. So you find yourself in a negotiation with the contractor throughout the contract, and it often is the job is keeping them motivated, keeping them on the job, and keeping them from having a dispute which rises to the point where they walk off the job. And there's a lot of reasons why contractors have disputes with public agencies.
Well, there may be a justification for changing the New Jersey law in some of these cases. I mean, some of these things probably raise to that level.
I was
and they should
thinking
be
the same
addressed.
thing as you mentioned it earlier. The public bidding laws do handcuff your actions quite a bit.
Good point, Rodney. Anything else?
No, thank you. If you have any other questions.
Township Committee, I'll start. I just want to start off by mentioning that the Historical Society has worked really hard. John Ash, Cheryl Fetty, a bunch of other people to come up with the Art in the Park that's going to be presented by the Historical Society on Saturday, 9/16, the 16th of this month, 10 to 4. They work really hard at putting this together. They got quite a good number of vendors right now, and it's high-end artisans, high-end crafters. It's a little better event with better, like I said, better crafters and vendors there. So anyone that would like to come out, I'm sure they would like to see you. They work hard to put these things together. And again, it's Saturday, the 16th, 10 to 4. Also, on behalf of the Merchants Association, I would like to mention that, of course, the Wine Festival, which is the biggest single event they put on through the Merchants Association all year, is going to be Saturday and Sunday, September 22nd and 23rd. My understanding is now they have 12 or possibly 13 wineries, so we're keeping that number up to where it's always been. Some of them are different wineries this year. The president, Fred Nebels, told me. High-end restaurants from Atlantic City, seafood, good quality food coming out. Caesar's department is coming out doing some great things. They're one of the sponsors, so I think it's going to be a great event. And I told Fred I'd get that word out there. And again, that's Saturday and Sunday, September 22nd and 23rd, 11 to 5. And that's all I really have. Art?
I'd just like to remind everybody that Monday evening, this coming Monday evening, is the 9/11 ceremony in the park in the center of town. It's a very nice ceremony. It's done every year, and I encourage everyone to come out. And that's all I have, John.
Thanks, Art. Roger?
Thanks, Art, for bringing that up. We always have a good crowd, good showing of people that come out to that, and it's good that we continue to remember that. Along with Art in the Park that you mentioned, John, don't forget that Saturday, we also have the senior advisory having a health fair at the mall.
Right,
So,
absolutely.
I mean, that ought to be very interesting, and I think everyone looks forward to both events.
Yeah, Diane Fox is the chairman of that board, and she's done a great job putting that together. So thank you for bringing that up,
Oh, you're
Roger.
welcome. And also, by the way, I believe we should all be mindful of the fact that, Thursday of this week, school will be open. So now we'll have some more challenges on the roads with school buses. And of course, with all the things you were talking about, with the cones out in the road and the detours and whatnot, it's going to be an interesting time. The other thing I would like to do, I'd like to congratulate the Weymouth and Mitzvah Fire Departments for receiving $230,000 grant to buy turnout gear.
Great news, great
I think
news.
that's fantastic. I think the township has a 10% match of $23,000 on that, but what's most impressive that these departments continue to seek funding and from many sources. And when they're fortunate enough to get it, it's greatly appreciated. So I would just like to congratulate them because whether it was Lauderdale in the past or Cologne, all these departments seem to find sources of revenue, and they compete for it, and they do very well. The downside of all of this is, I don't know how many of you picked up a newspaper Monday. Never stops. It's a holiday, and there were 15 pages of sheriff's sales. I mean, this has gone on. I've been following this for the last almost 2 months now, and they've been consistent every Monday going between 16 and 18 pages. I mean, you know, you talked earlier about the ordinance about demoing a lot of places that were just either, you know, after a fire or after some particular reason, or even others that walked away from them if necessary. It's tragic, and what it does is it weighs on the municipality. It weighs on the neighborhood, and people get concerned that we can't move as fast as we would like. It was funny, we were talking to Michael earlier about it, and you know, it's one thing to pass the ordinance, and it's one thing to say you get your boards making a decision on it. Still got to do environmentals, don't you? Yep. And the environmentals themselves can get very costly, and while you can lien the properties, you still have costs there that you have to account for. And you know, I know, John, and I think we all appreciate your comments about the budget and taxes. I think we all try to be very careful with that, and some things are just totally out of our hands. And I think Rodney brought up a point, you know, maybe we got to get things changed the way they're being administered through these different agencies through Trenton. But you know yourself, Rodney, it takes a long time to get that done.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times you're struggling with it. So all the hoops that you have to run through, I believe committee always tries to do their best, and obviously it's a struggle. So, but we thank all of you. Thanks, Mayor.
No problem. And as Roger said, with the Property Appeals Board, Property Maintenance Appeals Board, did a great job getting these last 3 properties lined up, getting the information together, and hopefully the result will be that these homes will be torn down. But just when you think that process is starting to happen, then you have to do an environmental study or something that comes along too. So you have to jump through the hoops and until it's complete, and then the process can finish. That's what we're looking at on those matters. Rodney?
Yes, and in that regard, I know I hear, in fact, all of us hear complaints about houses and about code violations and this kind of stuff. And let me tell you, getting rid of or condemning a home or trying to do something about it is an extremely lengthy process and a costly one too. I can think of one that cost us $70,000 just to clear the property. Unfortunately, you condemn it, you take it over, and then you have the responsibility for cleaning it up. So it's a big effort, which takes quite a bit. I'm glad you mentioned the Senior Expo at the Hamilton Mall on the 16th that the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee put together. They're going to have, at least 16 tables. There's going to be some good stuff there. They're going to have some belly dancers. They're going to have someone from the Neurological Recovery Center at Bacharach. I talked Joanna from, it's therapy, the physical therapy. She's going to be out there, and I think there may be some demonstration therapies, physical therapies out there. Massages out there. So I would encourage that. It should be a very, very nice event. Also, our green team continues to be active. The last meeting we discussed conducting a survey, and I think I mentioned that before, an audit to put together information that we can use to improve the downtown area and to work on eventually justifying or helping to put together a bike path. We also had a green team participant at the public meeting of the South Jersey Transportation Planning Office, and the meeting went well. Of course, we could have had a lot more public there. I did make a couple of comments, one about the smart traffic lights, and 2 about accelerating road work, and a few other comments. So with that, just one more thing. we've seen a lot of, I shouldn't say complaints, but a lot of results from the water, the heavy rains that we get. And I'll tell you, there's no reason to believe that this isn't going to get worse in the future. So I think we're going to have to think more and more about this and figure how we're going to treat it. It was pointed out to me that in Houston, they actually have no ordinances. They don't believe. They want to cut down regulations as much as possible, and they don't have ordinances. Instead, you have little HOAs, the condominium associations, and all these people establishing their own rules. But that has its consequences, and I think a lot of those chemical fires and things of that sort, and probably a good part of flooding, is associated with that. But it's interesting. Well, interesting to see what happens. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment? Any in the public like to speak? Come on up. Just come up to the microphone there, and if you would state your name for the record and address, we'd appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Josephine Bellina. I live in the village at Harding's Run.
Hi, Josephine.
Hi.
And your address?
4706 Summer Sweet Drive.
Okay.
I live right across from Harding Homes where the construction's going on.
Okay.
She's a Green Team member also, so.
Yes. Today I received a letter from Environmental Resolutions Incorporated. And apparently this company has been hired by, I guess, the developer. I guess when you have a construction site, they test the soil. Excuse me, I'm a little out of breath. And I got a letter from them because they have to notify me according to some statute, some state statute, because the work was prompt. They're doing work, remediation work, because there was lead found on the property. My question is, it says here, a copy of our reports regarding the work will be made available to Hamilton Township if requested by municipal officials. And I was just wondering, did you get that report? Did you get a copy of it? And is it available to someone like me?
Mike?
I don't recall receiving it, but we can certainly look into it. Do you have some paperwork there I
Yeah, I have the letter.
get a copy of?
Yeah, I called the company today.
Nor were we notified that they were doing a cleanup on that site. Our office was not notified.
Not notified, okay.
Yeah, when I called them today, I'll show it to you in a second. They said that it showed areas of concern. They have not started construction in those areas as of yet, and it's a very small area. And the reason I'm a little, anytime you hear of the word lead, gets you concerned, and it's soil. Since they started with the demolition of the, taking down the trees, whatever, there's been a lot of soil that gets kicked up. I mean, there was you would expect that, there's a lot of dust. So my concern is that it has been going up in the air. They said there was various areas that they found lead at certain points. So I'm a little concerned about how they're going to remediate, where is this going to happen, and
Sure.
What's the process? And that's my question.
I can tell you that I sit on the planning board, and at the planning board level, this project was completely approved, received all their approvals, but the conditions that are imposed on an applicant are that they must comply with all the state environmental regulations. So apparently that's what they did, and in the boring, they found this problem. So I would say that it's probably, you're early on this, but it's a good thing that you brought it to our attention. And that's our economic development director. He has a copy on it too. He's going to copy it actually.
Okay.
But that's great that you were able to catch that and come in. But I would think that finding that, now they have to jump through the hoops that they have to jump through, which includes contacting us and the proper people to get that out there. And when that happens, I'm sure we would want to release any information to what they found in those tests that they did. But there's a procedure in place, and you just highlighted it, and that's great. That was great that you brought that in and mentioned it. And you mentioned about the lead issue. They're going to have to remediate that in some way, and they have to explain it.
Right.
So Mike will check into that further, and we'll make sure that this happens. Kevin, do you have anything on this?
Well, I don't want to speculate too much, but that kind of terminology sounds like it follows from a normal Phase 1, which
Right.
is what a developer would do before they start construction, just to make sure that they're not going to encounter something unknown. If they find an area of concern, which is that terminology, they explore it further, and sometimes areas of concern are identified for a certain reason, what they're looking for. So I'm not sure if they even found lead. They may still be looking for lead. I don't know exactly
Well,
what.
they said it had something to do with the prior use of the property, which I don't know what that means. It's been woods for the 20 years that I've been there, so I don't know.
Something was there that
How
may have
close do
had
you live
lead.
to the property?
I'm right at the corner, like the first entrance.
Sure.
I'm right there. Like, when they start banging the trucks at 6:30 in the morning, I'm
God.
right there.
We're going to
So-
call the developer in the morning, trust me.
We're going to stay on top of this. You have a very valid concern. Bob, I'm sorry.
To answer your second question, a person like you, or any person, is absolutely entitled to the report.
Okay.
So when it is received by the governing body or by administration, they call me, and I tell them that you're entitled to it.
Okay, so what is the process?
Well,
Who would I need to
you've
get in touch
initiated
with?
the process.
Okay,
Kevin, because if they found reasons for remediation, shouldn't that halt all construction until that's taken care of?
It definitely will halt any construction within the area of influence of that remediation, absolutely.
And whose
I mean,
decision is that?
That's DEP.
Okay.
This is now a case file at DEP.
DEP situation, and that, so you're going to check with both the construction and DEP to
will.
find out that
We will,
everybody's on
in
the
fact.
same page?
Yeah, if there's an area of concern and they're investigating for a constituent product, they have to have a plan for that approved by DEP, the investigative action plan.
Okay.
Wouldn't they have done an environmental when they bought the property?
That's usually what it stems from. They may have gone up through a certain point before they acted on the Phase 1 into the actual investigation that was probably recommended in
Now,
the
there've been
Phase
all, beyond that property, there've been a couple pits back there that they were mining, whether it was soil or whatever.
Yeah.
They may have been storing equipment back there. They may have had fuel back there for equipment while they were mining, leaded gasoline back there. There may be an area of concern, and that would make sense. And of course, that would be an area that you would want carefully remediated and before they continue working.
okay. All right. Who would I get in touch with to follow up with? Mr. Jacobs.
I'll give you a card.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank
Well,
you
it's
for
a
bringing that
concern
up.
we all have now that
Yep.
you brought it to our attention, and we thank you. It's interesting, because I worked in front of Price. Became crazy.
Anyone else in the public like to speak?
Move to close the public portion?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.
Thanks for this, I got this. This is good.